For sinister tales of the haunted woods, spine-chilling secrets revealed this summer. Sarah stood at the edge of the woods, her heart pumping in her chest, as shadows flickered just beyond the trees. Willow Creek seemed perfect, but the woods whispered secrets that twisted her stomach like a vice. "Don't listen," she told herself. Yet, the stories echoed in her head: missing children, eerie sounds at night, and neighbors glancing nervously at the tree line. Each chill in the summer air sent shivers through her spine. What innocent tales were hidden in this tranquil setting? For weeks, Sarah had loved their new home, but as the sun dipped below the horizon, the idyllic suburban facade began to crack. Just last week at the grocery store, a disheveled woman grabbed her arm, eyes wild and desperate. "Keep your kids close. The woods, they take them." The thought stayed lodged in Sarah's mind. Afraid of the creeping dark, she fought to dismiss her fears. But as dusk descended, shadows loomed larger, and the warmth of the day felt hauntingly absent. Outside, she watched her youngest, Lily, playing in the waning light, laughter echoing against the trees. But then she saw Matt, her oldest, staring off into the woods. The smile fell from his face, replaced with wide eyes fixed on something unseen. A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. "Matt! Stay closer!" She called, but the warning seemed lost in the heavy air. "Mom, did you hear that?" he asked, his voice shaky. She strained to listen but only heard the rustling leaves, a sound that felt too alive. Each night, as they settled in, the settlements of the town cornered them, murmurs of old legends and hidden rituals disguised as friendly chats. Something felt wrong. The hairs on her neck stood on end, and her pulse raced like clockwork. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days spilled into one another, each reveal more unsettling than the last. The community board plastered with smiling faces of missing children lingered in her mind, faces that would never grow older. The townsfolk always dodged her questions, smiles stretching just wide enough to hide the fear beneath. Were they hiding something sinister? Matt began to notice the symbols carved into the trees during their afternoon adventures. Lines and curves twisted in patterns that made his young imagination flare with curiosity. Then, with the summer solstice looming, everything shifted. One hazy night, Matt dashed outside to chase fireflies. The sky deepened, and the woods turned dark as a bottomless pit. The calls for him turned frantic. The darkness swallowed his name, leaving only the echo in her mind. Each second felt like an hour as she plunged into the shadows, panic clawing at her as she searched. "Matt! Come back!" She screamed, but the darkness swallowed the sound. The trees seemed to close in, and a chilling whisper wrapped around her. Was it her imagination, or did she hear her son answer? Fear tore through her as she stumbled deeper into the woods. What secrets, what terror gripped this town? And as she stood trembling at the threshold of that ominous forest, a distant siren wailed, absorbing her breath and leaving only dread behind. Where was Matt? What chilling fate had ensnared him? She had to know. Matt! The name flew from her lips, desperate and raw. The darkness seemed to coil tighter around her, the once familiar landscape twisted into nightmarish shapes. Every rustling leaf felt like a taunt, every snapping twig echoed like a heartbeat, pounding her fears into the stillness. She forced herself to move, feet stumbling over roots and uneven ground, each step pulling her deeper into the wood's grasp. The night air felt thick, almost suffocating, and Sarah's breaths came shallow and fast. Panic gnawed at her. How could her son vanish into this living nightmare? He must be close, she thought, a frenzied mantra that fought against despair. Then she heard it. A soft laughter broke through the oppressive silence, all too familiar yet chillingly distorted, echoing from a clearing ahead. "Matt?" she called, voice shaking. The laughter faded into an eerie silence, and she hesitated. Something wasn't right. The clearing opened before her, moonlight pooling like silver water, but it felt wrong. Shadows danced as if held by unseen puppeteers. In the center stood an old tree, ancient and gnarled, patches of light revealing twisted branches that seemed to beckon her. Deep carvings marred the bark. Symbols. Those same symbols Matt had pointed out days before. A sinking dread filled her. They felt alive, pulsating like a heartbeat. "Mom." The voice cut through the air, full of youthful clarity but layered with something else, a deeper resonance that sent chills down her spine. It was coming from behind the tree. "Matt. I'm here." Her voice trembled, fear almost choking her. The shadows flickered around her, creating restless shapes that morphed in her peripheral vision. She stepped forward, heart hammering against her ribcage. "Matt?" she pleaded, face pale against the glow of the moon. The air was colder now, and the laughter returned, this time closer, as if the woods themselves were mocking her. She glanced at the tree again, the symbols twisting eerily in the moonlight. It felt as if they were alive, watching her. Taking a breath, she took another step, and the ground seemed to shift beneath her. Compulsion gripped her. She had to know what lay behind that ancient tree. As she rounded the trunk, her breath stopped. There he was, Matt, standing unnaturally still, but his face, it held a strange glow, an expression too serene for the frantic atmosphere around them. It was like he wasn't in the same world as her. "Matt?" she whispered, hands trembling as she reached towards him. Just then, he turned slowly, his eyes reflecting the moonlight like shards of glass. "Mom, they're waiting," he said softly, as if in a trance. A cold wave of dread washed over Sarah. Who was waiting? The deep layers of the night seemed to pulsate with presence, drawing closer now, an unseen audience looming just out of sight. Suddenly, the whispers grew. They were everywhere, weaving through the trees, curling around her. Threats and promises tumbled together, urging her to listen, their rustle mixing like a cacophony of both beckoning and warning. "Matt, run!" she screamed, desperation fueling her. But he stood there, rooted to the spot, just beyond her reach, face blank and unresponsive. The last remnants of daylight flickered as if it were being snuffed out. The trees sighed ominously, a terrible chorus of the unseen, and she realized with horror whatever held sway in these woods was not done with her family. "Fighting won't change anything," Sarah, a voice whispered through the shadows, sending a shiver down her spine. "You'll join us too." And just like that, the darkness crept closer, closer. What had she unleashed? What had her son become? As only the thin slices of moonlight remained, illuminating the horror before her, Sarah felt herself being pulled into the unseen crowd, finally understanding the weight of the sinister tales whispered about the woods, what awaited her there, where shadows danced and laughter echoed. Would she be able to reclaim her son before the woods claimed them both? The trees throbbed with the whispers, each murmur slicing through the night like a knife. Join us, it was a song of temptation, a dark lullaby that wrapped around Sarah's thoughts, pulling her towards an unseen precipice. She felt weightless, suspended between her love for Matt and an overwhelming dread that swirled like smoke in her mind. "Matt!" she shrieked again, her voice cracking under the strain of rising terror. She reached for him, fingers brushing against the strange glow that enveloped him. But he didn't move, just stared ahead into darkness, caught in a trance that made her heart drop. The chilling laughter reverberated, mixing with the whispers of the woods. It came from all directions now, a cacophony of voices rising and falling like a tide, wrapping tightly around her ears, stifling thought. Every ounce of her being screamed to leave, to run back into the safety of the twisted paths that had led her here. But her feet were glued to the earth, as if the roots of the ancient tree had burrowed into her very soul. "Matt, please!" Suddenly, with a jolt that felt like lightning, he blinked, and the serenity evaporated. His eyes widened in shock, and for a fleeting moment, he seemed to be back in the world with her. "Mom, you have to go." "They who? Who are they?" Sarah frantically pressed, grasping his arm as though she might tether him to reality. "They want," he hesitated, wrestling with something that seemed to wrap around his throat like a noose. The air turned frigid. "They want to take you. To welcome you. Just like they welcomed me." A flood of horror crashed over Sarah, waves of despair cresting and retreating. The symbols on the tree glowed brighter, casting flickering shadows that morphed into grotesque shapes. Figures began to drift from the darkness, silhouettes swaying gently, emerging from the gloom like twisted memories. Their eyes were hollow, their mouths stretched into distorted grins, beckoning her forward with open arms. "No!" She shook him violently, fear flooding her veins. "Fight it, Matt. Come back to me." For a second, that gnarled tree seemed to pulse, drawing in the light around them, an insatiable beast hungry for more. The area around them shifted, the ground felt alive, the roots writhing beneath the surface. "Mom. I can't." His voice cracked, pained. A glint of struggle flickered behind his eyes, but then that tranquility washed over him again. "You have to join us." Suddenly, she heard the chanting rise, a rhythmic incantation that reverberated through her chest, drowning out her racing heart. Shadows flickered closer, and the presence of something immense loomed behind her. Sarah felt cold fingers graze her back, urging her. Panic thrummed like electricity through her body. "No!" Desperation poured out of her. With a fierce determination, she yanked Matt toward her, the string of his mind fraying precariously in her grip. "We're leaving." As if awakening from a nightmare, Matt's expression shattered, and he blinked rapidly, the weight of the darkness pressing against them. A glimmer of recognition lit up his eyes. "Mom. We can't." With a surge, Sarah pulled him away from the tree, dragging him back, but the shadows surged forth, swirling like a storm, tendrils reaching for them. The ground trembled, and the air grew thick and suffocating. "No!" She screamed, feeling a force tugging against her, pulling her back toward the ancient tree. It whispered her name, a seductive lullaby, promising everything she had longed for. But it was a lie. As they broke free, she ran, urging Matt onward, the chaotic chorus behind them roaring in anger. They burst into the dim underbrush, the whispers fading for a moment, but the air crackled with a menace still lurking. Breathless and wild, she glanced back, heart pounding. Did we escape? The woods sighed in response, the shadows swirled, circling hungrily at the edge of her vision. But as they stumbled deeper into the trees, she realized Matt wasn't just Matt anymore. The look in his eyes, a flicker of longing nestled against something darker, made her blood run cold. What had they brought back with them from the grasp of the woods? As branches reached for her, scraping against her skin, she felt it, a bond that wasn't just maternal love but something more sinister. The forest had marked them, and the whispers had barely begun. What would it demand next? The forest throbbed around them, breathing their fear, echoing their anxiety. Sarah dragged Matt through the dimly lit underbrush, her heart pounding like a war drum. Shadows danced between the trees, their movements twisted and unnatural. Every step felt calculated, as if the ground beneath her was preparing to swallow them whole. "Matt, are you okay?" she whispered, desperately searching for any hint of her son in his gaze. But the darkness lingered there, glittering with an otherworldly glow. He looked at her, and for a moment, she saw clarity, a flicker of recognition. Then it vanished, replaced by that haunting emptiness. "I don't know, Mom." His voice was barely a whisper, each word tinged with fear. "It's like they're inside me. I can feel them." The words dug into Sarah like a blade. She quickened her pace, but the forest closed in around them, thickening with whispers that curled around her throat like vines. "Shut up. Just shut up." She screamed at the trees, the malicious laughter rising again, mocking her, feeding off her terror. Every breath felt heavier, weighted by the humidity of the forest. But then she saw it, a single flicker of light through the dense trees, pulsing steadily like a heartbeat. "Over there, Matt. We need to reach that light." They ran towards it, desperation pushing them through the dark. She could feel the shadows at her back, clawing, grappling. The whispers were a symphony, now an urgent call, promising something she dared not comprehend. "Mom. Wait." Matt stumbled, a pained look crossing his face. I can't feel you." She stopped, looking back. He was swaying, like a leaf caught in a spiral wind. "Matt, please. Focus on me." She could see it now, the way shadows darted around him, circling closer. "Join them," a voice hissed around them, the wind twisting its words. "Join them, it's easier than you think." "No." The word erupted from Sarah's lips, raw and fierce. "You're my son. Fight it, Matt." He was shaking his head, confusion flickering across his features, battling whatever darkness had seeped into his mind. "I'm trying, Mom, but I want to go home. They don't want to hurt us." The flickering light ahead dimmed, casting menacing shadows that seemed to coil tighter around them. Panic gripped Sarah. "No. Do not listen to them." She reached for him, grasping his wrist. "We need to keep moving." But her grip felt tenuous, slipping as the forest seemed to draw Matt in, a predator waiting for the right moment. "Please, Mom, help me. I can feel them pulling," he gasped, his voice a low murmur that chilled her to the bone. Without thinking, Sarah yanked his arm hard. "Fight. For us." The desperation in her own voice landed between them, heavy and urgent. In that moment of instinct, like a door breaking open, Matt's eyes momentarily cleared, and he took a deep breath. Together he breathed, the words slipping from his lips like a promise. And then it happened. A scream tore through the night, primal and wild. The shadows recoiled, the ground trembled, and the forest bellowed in fury. Rushing wind knocked against them, sparking chaos in the dark. Branches snapped and swayed violently under the pressure of an unseen force. The light flickered yet again, but this time it shimmered with a fierce promise. "Run!" Sarah yelled, dragging Matt with her as panic propelled them toward the hazy glow. But as they dove forward, she felt it a shift beneath her feet. The ground split open, cracking like a giant's snarl, and from the depths below came a sharp whisper, a command. "Stay or join us." A scream rose to her throat, brimming with desperation. The promise of escape hung just out of reach, and she felt the shadows lurking, waiting for her decision. Would they remain together, or would they be claimed? The light flickered again, and in that perfect moment, it teetered on the edge between freedom and abyss. Would it extinguish forever, or would it reveal the truth waiting just beyond their grasp as the darkness threatened to devour them both whole? The wood sighed around them, the choice looming larger. They bolted towards the flickering light, hearts racing, pounding against the solid beat of the forest's dark pulse. Each step felt weighted, as if the trees themselves conspired to drag them back into the abyss. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the gaping earth behind them was a mouth ready to devour. "Keep going," she urged, pulling Matt along despite the slippery roots clutching at his feet. The air was thickening, suffocating. Just ahead, the light fluctuated, beckoning with an allure that felt both seductive and sinister. "Mom, I can't," Matt wheezed, his breath coming in desperate gasps. "I feel them, it's so hard to think." The shadows writhed, whispering like a swarm, and the voices merged into a cacophony of temptation. "You can be one of us, join the rest, it's safer." "It's easier, no." Sarah snapped. "They lie. Don't you hear them? It's a trap. We're almost there." But Matt's resolve flickered like an old bulb. His grip on her slipped as the whispers droned louder, tugging at the corners of his mind. "Mom, what if they're right?" "Don't!" Sarah screamed, panic bubbling in her throat. "They were so close. Don't you dare listen to them." Without warning, a shadow lunged forward, reaching for Matt. It elongated, morphing into a grotesque pair of arms. Sarah felt the hair on her neck rise as it brushed against Matt's shoulder. "Join us." The voice was more urgent, a dark lullaby overlaid with malevolence. The feeling of ice seeped into Sarah's chest. "Matt! Fight!" She yanked him closer, pouring every ounce of courage into her voice. "Listen to me. I'm right here. Focus on our home. Focus on me." He hesitated, eyes flicking between the light and the darkness swirling around him. I don't know." The shadows began to intertwine with his body, twisting around him like serpents, and Sarah felt despair claw at her throat. "Stay with me," she begged, tightening her grip. "We've come too far." The ground trembled beneath them, the forest seemingly aware of their struggle. "Stay or join us." The whispering voice seemed to rise from the very soil, curdling in her stomach. In a pulse of decision, Sarah yanked him hard, forcing him into the light's illumination. "I want to let you go." Suddenly, the light flared, illuminating the sadistic tapestry of twisted trees and flickering shadows. Matt's eyes widened, haunted by a deep craving she recognized all too well. The warmth of the light seeped into Sarah's bones, igniting a flicker of hope, yet the forest responded, enraged. Branches swiped like claws, slicing the air as the shadows howled and contorted. They were losing ground. "Run!" Sarah commanded, pushing Matt forward. As they sprinted, the ground beneath them moaned in protest, roots rising like skeletal hands eager to grip them tight. The pathway to the light shuddered, a jagged line filled with deep chasms. Breathless from fear and exertion, Matt stumbled again. "Matt!" Panic surged through Sarah. "Stay close." Without warning, a trapdoor of dark earth yawned open to swallow them whole. Sarah barely managed to snatch Matt before he plummeted into the gaping maw. "We can't stop." She pulled him closer as they raced toward the dim glow ahead, but the hunger of the shadows surged, relentless. The whispers swelled, now joined with shrill laughter, a chaotic symphony clawing at their sanity. Then, just as they neared the light, it flickered one last time, an every-thought's illuminating brilliance. As they reached for it, Sarah swore she could see faces within the glow, lost souls reaching out from within the light, watching, waiting. "Mom! What are they?" Matt's voice quaked in shock as he pointed, frozen in fear. In that heartbeat, she understood. It wasn't a safe haven. It was a trap. A place to ensnare the desperate, to lure the unwary, and they were running straight into it. "Run back!" She screamed suddenly, her heart racing as dread unfurled within her. "We need to run. They want us here." But the shadows surged forward, relentless and hungry. Around them, the forest darkened, drawing closer, tighter, as the light began to fade, extinguished by the encroaching night. Nothing was certain anymore as the shadows whispered their final promise, "We'll take you home," and the decision lay before them. Would they stay and join the terror, or would they fight their way back against the oppressive darkness, knowing that the forest would not let them leave unscathed? As panic clawed at her tightly wound heart, Sarah felt time stretch, the forest waiting, and for one brief moment, an overwhelming silence fell, thick and heavy. What would they choose? "Matt! Back! Now!" Desperation surged through Sarah as she pulled Matt away from the light. Their breaths were sharp, cutting through the oppressive darkness like knives. The shadows lunged but missed, their forms skirting back into the trees, grasping, waiting. "Run!" she barked, her voice hoarse. She could feel the pulse of the forest throbbing beneath her feet, as if it were alive, as if it were a beast ready to consume them whole. Matt's feet seemed glued to the ground, fear anchoring him. "Mom," the voices he stammered, horrified. "They're calling me." "No." Panic clawed at her insides. She could see now that the shadows were not just some vague threat. They were creatures of temptation, malevolence given form. "They're lying. They want to take you." Still, the whispers whispered and the air thickened with promises. Come home, be free, join us. She felt her own defenses wavering under their relentless pull. Matt was shaking now, caught between shadows and the flickering light. What could she say to root him in this harrowing moment? The cacophony of laughter and darkness grew louder, filling her mind with chaos. The forest shifted its shades, russet leaves darkening to deep indigos, narrowing their escape. Mom, his eyes glazed over, and Sarah saw the moment of surrender hanging between them. Fight it. Sarah almost staggered, clutching his arm tighter. She forced him to look at her. You're stronger than this. Matt's breath became erratic, his body trembling with the weight of the shadows creeping toward him. What if it's easier? No. It's a lie. The shadows glimmered, reflecting both their fears and the snare they had spoken of. Listen to me, Matt. Look at what we survived. Remember the camping trip? The stories we told at night? We are not done yet. The ground shrieked beneath them, and the trees swayed ominously. Something was shifting in the depths of the forest, something too big and too menacing. In that moment, Sarah had an idea. Think of Dad. Remember how he loved to fish? How he'd always say, never let the line break. Matt's face flickered with clarity for just an instant. She seized it. Remember the last time we went? How we sat under that big oak? Yes, but his voice was soft, nearly drowned by the whispers clawing at them. The shadows moved restlessly, sensing their moment of indecision. Stay with us, you can forget, you can join, forget? Sarah spat back, her heart racing. Forget him? Forget who we are? With every ounce of strength, she yanked Matt toward another direction, away from the light and toward the depth of the forest. Run. Just focus on each step. They stumbled into a clearing, but it was no reprieve. The moon broke through the canopy, casting a cold light that made the shadows even darker. And then she saw at the outline of something that shouldn't be there, lurking at the edge of the clearing, a figure, with elongated limbs that twisted unnaturally, its face an expression of unfathomable hunger. Sarah froze as icy dread seized her chest. What is that? Matt's voice barely rose above a whisper. The figure stepped closer, dragging the forest behind it like a tattered shroud. The laughter swelled again, echoing from the depths of the trees. Join us, little lost ones, we have what you seek. The ground beneath them crumbled. Sarah felt the earth give way, the encroaching darkness curling around Matt's arm, trying to pull him forward, away from her. Get off! She screamed, wrenching him back with all her might. Terror clawed at her throat as the shadows wrapped around them both, threatening to snuff out their hope completely. Mom, let me go! He shouted. I want peace. Fury and despair ignited something primal within Sarah. No! I will fight. I will fight for our freedom. As the figure loomed closer, shadows swirling, a flash of determination shielded them momentarily. And just as Sarah prepared to face the terror head-on, a vision of the light flickered again. No, not again. They were pulled in two directions, freedom at one end, despair at the other. Would the pull of shadow win? Would they fight through the darkness, or would they slip into the undeniable pull of the unseen terror lurking just beyond their grasp? Her heart thundered as the air shimmered, the forest waiting, and the figure stretched its hand forward, ready to claim them. But the choice was theirs. What would they decide? No. Sarah's voice cut through the surreal haze, desperation sharpening every word. She hurled herself forward, straining against the weight of shadowy tendrils that clung to Matt. The pull was brutal, like ice water invading her veins. Matt, listen to my voice. She cried, her heart pounding. The whispers intensified, wrapping around them, thickening the air, so each breath felt like inhaling glass. You're not losing yourself. Fight. Matt's eyes flickered, the light glimmering back for a fleeting moment. Mom. His voice trembled, the release of hope almost palpable. Just remember. We can't let them take you. She decided then, pulling on a strength she didn't know she had left. You don't want to be a part of this. You're stronger. The laughter rose, a frenzied chorus as if the trees themselves mocked them. Leaves rustled with breathy gasps, and for a moment, Sarah thought she could see faces forming in the bark, lost souls twisted in agony, trapped in this place. Join us, give in, echoed the figure's voice, low and sinister, seductive as it crept closer. No. The word erupted from Sarah, raw and primal. You're not my son. You're Matt. My boy. You are so much more than this. She could feel the shadows writhe against her, trying to seep into her thoughts, whispering her own fears back to her. What if you can't? They hissed, what if you're already too late? But she wouldn't yield. Each heartbeat was a defiance against the darkness closing in. Gathering all her strength, she tugged Matt back sharply. We need to go, now. He stumbled but resisted. Mom, what if I want no? She snapped again, tears streaking through the dirt on her face. You don't want peace if it means giving yourself up. You fight for it. You fight with me. The air rippled, almost electric, as the figure lunged forward, mouth stretching in an eerie grin, its eyes glimmering with a promise of dark relief. Matt's internal battle raged, visible in the way his breathing quickened, his shoulders shaking. But I'm so tired, then use that. Use it to run. She felt adrenaline surge as her scream thundered against the walls of the forest, echoing against the encroaching dread. Run with me. We can find a way out. The shadows hesitated, flickering like candle flames in a draft. She seized that moment, tugging Matt with all her might, and they darted deeper into the woods. Branches clawed at them, as if trying to halt their escape. Every rustle felt like fingertips, brushing against skin, whispering secrets that shouldn't be spoken. The laughter grew fainter, yet the chill of the shadows remained, nipping at their heels. Behind them, the figure howled in frustration, a guttural sound that sent vibrations of panic through Sarah's chest. The laughter twisted into screams, but they pushed onward, hearts pounding, feet pounding, the forest alive with hostility. A sudden clearing emerged, revealing a wide gnarled tree standing sentinel. Its roots were exposed, twisting and curling as if in agony. There was something unsettling about it, an undeniable energy that radiated both dread and curiosity. Mom, what is that? Matt murmured, eyes wide, fear returning tenfold. We have to approach it, she whispered, her voice wavering. As they approached the tree, a low hum vibrated through the air, resonating with an unearthly pulse. Please, Matt breathed, hope mingling uneasily with fear. Is this the way out? Before Sarah could respond, the tree creaked ominously, branches swaying as if beckoning. Shadows flared to life around them, a cold wind sweeping through the clearing. They were not free, yet the shadows were gathering once more. Get ready! She shouted, gripping Matt's hand tightly. We'll face it together. But just as the shadows surged toward them, a low voice whispered from the very heart of the tree. Come closer, wanderers, discover the truth. The darkness stirred, and Sarah felt an icy dread wash over her. They had ventured deeper than before, but was the truth within the tree even worse than the darkness chasing them? Matt, I don't think we can trust it. But the tree pulsated, shadows retreating for just a heartbeat. Would they take that risk? Behind them, the laughter resumed, louder and hungrier than before. What horror awaited them, and would they dare to unearth it? Sarah squinted at the gnarled tree, as its ancient bark twisted and writhed like a living thing. The low hum morphed into a palpable vibration that thudded against her chest. Each pulse was an invitation, or perhaps a curse begging to ensnare them. Mom, it feels alive, Matt whispered, dread creeping into his voice. I know, she replied, desire and panic weaving a complex knot in her gut. But we can't let them win. The shadows encircled them, breathing down their necks. She could almost feel their chilling whispers curling around her ears like snake tails, urging her to come closer, to yield. Yet the truth they promised felt like a venomous bite, an alluring poison. "Don't let go of my hand, okay?" she said, tightening her grip. "Okay," his voice trembled, barely above a whisper. As they stepped closer, the tree's branches unfurled, revealing gaping holes like dark mouths ready to swallow them whole. A chill rushed through her as the forest stilled, holding its breath, waiting. "Would you like to know why you're here?" The voice echoed again, each word laced with a serpent's charm. Sarah gritted her teeth. "No. We know what you are." Her heart hammered like a frantic animal caught in a trap. But the shadows stirred again, taunting her resolve. "You've come all this way, yet you remain blind to the truth. What if your son's weakness is merely the start of his awakening?" Matt gasped, visibly shaken. "Mom, I don't feel weak, no." Sarah shot back, her voice flaring with defiance. "You are strong. You know who you are." The low sound of laughter began anew, sinister and inviting, as if the forest was mocking her. "Embrace it," the tree whispered just above the hysteria of the shadows. "We can ease your pain forever." The ground beneath them trembled, roots writhing like serpents. Around them, the breaths of trees became thick with tension, and she could see the faces more clearly now, shadows twisted in rage, despair, and longing. Faces of those who had succumbed to the lure of the grove, trapped in a nightmare of their own making. "No. We'll fight," she shouted, her voice echoing through the clearing like a shot fired in defiance. With a fierce pull, Sarah urged Matt closer, stepping over exposed roots that seemed to claw at their feet. Just as they began to turn away, the shadows lunged once more, and she felt an unseen force pushing against her, almost knocking her down. "Join us!" The chorus wailed, its collective voice a tempest. The air grew dense, suffocating, coating their lungs with despair. But at that very moment, the wind picked up, rustling the leaves, drowning the echoes of the sinister laughter. The tree swayed, and to Sarah's shock, a blinding light erupted from within one of the dark holes, illuminating the clearing with a radiant glow. "Mom!" Matt shouted, fear wrestling with something else, something hopeful. The echoes gasped, recoiling from the brilliance, the shadows dimming before the light. But moments later, as quickly as it came, the illumination flickered, disappearing into the depths of the tree, the shadows reclaiming their territory. "No! Not now!" Sarah yelled, her desperation igniting a surge of resolve. As the shadows converged, a fragmented truth rippled through the air, an image flashing before her eyes. They were shadows of those lost, yes, but they were also fragments of those who had fought and won before them. A glimpse of freedom existed, somewhere within the blackened roots. "Matt, we need to harness it. Use the light. Fight." But in that instant, the ground heaved, and a fissure opened at the foot of the tree, revealing writhing tendrils snaking upwards, threatening to consume them whole. With an unyielding determination, Sarah tugged Matt back, ready to wrench him away from the grasp of fate. The shadows screamed in retaliation, but nothing would stop her. "Mom, I'm afraid." And then she saw it, a flicker of movement in the darkness, something emerging from the ground just inside the chasm. "Stay close," she shouted, heart pounding with dread as she prepared for what might come next. But would they uncover the light, or would they fall deeper into the dark? What awaited them in that dreadful opening, and was it truly the key to their escape? The fissure widened, the ground trembling beneath them like a heartbeat quickening with terror. Blackened tendrils coiled and uncoiled, slithering toward Sarah and Matt with an insatiable hunger. Her grip on Matt tightened as his fingers squeezed back, a vice of fear anchoring them together. "Mom, it's coming for us." His voice broke, a plaintive cry in the suffocating anticipation of darkness. "Hold on," Sarah shouted, instinctively stepping backward. The very soil felt alive, writhing and clawing beneath their feet. The dark mouths of the tree yawned wider, as if starved for their presence, for their essence. She could sense the shadows pulsing with a deep hunger, a relentless calling that gnawed at her mind, blurring the edges of her thoughts. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the clearing, and a low, resonant growl seemed to emanate from the depths of the earth. The shadows around them formed shapes, figures twisted in agony, gnarled bodies reaching out, pleading for release yet held captive by the very darkness they had succumbed to. "Mom!" Matt exclaimed, panic lacing his tone. What if they're trapped, just like us?" "No." Her voice rang out with harsh conviction. "We're not like them. We will fight." But doubt gnawed at her, shadowy tendrils prickling at her resolve. She felt an echoed whisper curl around her mind, a wisp of a thought dangling just out of reach. "Embrace the darkness, it will set you free, Mom." Matt shrieked again, the gaps between their hearts widening as fear threatened to pull them apart. The tendrils lashed out, brushing her ankles, feeling cold and insidious. With a sudden surge of defiance, Sarah stepped toward the fissure. "Bring it on!" she yelled, determination fueling her as she scanned the nightmarish scenery. If the shadows wanted her, they would have to fight for it. She felt the glow of the fleeting light from moments before flicker within her, a dying ember pleading for resurgence. The shadows recoiled, hissing as if scorched. "You can't defy us. You belong to the dark." A chorus of voices surged, chanting and warping the very air around them. "Matt, listen to me," she cried, focusing on her son's trembling face. "Remember what we talked about, the light within. Focus on it. We're stronger than this." The shadows screeched, a cacophony filled with despair and rage. The fissure crackled, a blinding flash seizing the clearing. The chaotic light grabbed hold of Matt, illuminating him like a beacon amid the fray. For a fleeting moment, clarity surged through the mist of terror. "Mom!" he breathed, fire igniting in his eyes. "I feel it." The roots momentarily recoiled in their presence, their movement stalling as if paralyzed by the brightness that radiated from their connection. "It's our chance." Her heart raced, beating furiously with hope. Yet amid the brilliance, she felt the shadows gathering, creeping back, desperate to reclaim their lost prey. "Quickly! We have to plunge into the light," Sarah urged, bracing herself for what lay ahead. But then her heart sank as she realized the flickering light was fading again, the shadows consolidating for another assault. "Mom, I don't want to let go. I can't do this alone," Matt cried, tears glistening in his fear-stricken eyes. "Then don't." She tightened her grip one last time, thrusting her other hand toward the fissure, desperation mingling with conviction. Together. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Shadows surged forward, ensnaring them, reaching for the warmth of their bodies. Then came the blinding light, surging forth with a ferocity that lit the entire clearing. As it washed over them, their vision blurred, the silhouettes of the lost dissolving into its brilliance, vanishing like smoke in a breeze, but with each pulse of the light, Sarah felt the erratic pull of the darkness still gripping at her anchor to reality, her heart trembling. Was this brightness their salvation or just a momentary distraction before the inevitable darkness reclaimed them? "Stay close, Matt," she begged, bracing herself for whatever horror awaited on the other side of the shadows. The light flickered once more, pulsating as the fissure seemed to grow deeper. The echoes of voices melded into a frenetic melody that began to weave a tale, a warning, perhaps, but would they decipher it before the darkness consumed them whole? As Sarah clutched Matt's hand tightly, they plunged into the radiance, heartbeats pounding in sync with the pulsating light. The shadows writhed, furious, clawing at the edges of their consciousness, desperate to reclaim what they believed was theirs. But for the first time, Sarah felt the weight of fear lift, replaced by an ember of hope that flared brighter with each passing second. "Mom, it's so bright," Matt gasped, his eyes wide as the light enveloped them, almost tangible in its warmth. It felt like they were wrapped in a cocoon of safety, a stark contrast to the cold grip of the encroaching darkness. "We have to believe," Sarah shouted, her voice ringing through the shimmering glow. "This light is our way out." Around them, the forest dimmed, the shadows retreating at the sight of their defiance, whispering angry threats that faded like distant echoes. In that moment, time stretched. The cadence of their breaths synchronized with the rhythm of the light, creating a harmony that felt primal, liberating. "We did it, Matt." Sarah felt a surge of courage, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. "Keep running." With their feet pounding against the ground, the world around them began to shift. Trees shimmered and morphed into blurry silhouettes, the path ahead brightening as they pressed on. The whispers morphed into sounds of panic, like the rustling of leaves and the howling winds, swirling in confusion. "Mom, I think we're," Matt began, but Sarah tightened her grip. "We're almost there. Stay focused on the light." The glow felt alive, infused with spirit, pushing back against the creeping dread. But as they sprinted, the ground beneath them shifted, trembling with the intensity of their escape. Tendrils of shadows thrashed and lashed out, attempting to entwine their ankles. She felt herself stumble, just for a second, but Matt's hand never slipped from hers. "We're together," she yelled, reigniting their determination. "They can't take us apart." Bursting through a final thicket, they were met with an expansive view, the vastness of the forest opening up into a clearing drenched in golden light. It felt vast and inviting, a world unmarred by the darkness that had clung to them, and then, the ground shuddered violently. As Sarah looked back, she saw the shadows consolidating, swirling into a formidable mass, figures blending into one monstrous entity, screaming in agony and loss. "You will not escape," it howled, its voice a cacophony of despair. "We will." Sarah propelled herself forward, dragging Matt along as their feet danced over the golden grass. "This is our choice. We refuse to join you." In that last moment, the shadows lunged, reaching with tentacles of darkness toward their receding forms. But the light flickered alive upon their passage, enveloping them in warmth and strength. Instead of rushing to embrace the shadows, a flare of luminescence shot from the center of the clearing, splintering the darkness as if it were paper, its malevolence torn asunder before their eyes. Then, with one final push, they tumbled into the heart of the light. Everything went white, a blinding burst of ecstasy, pain, and release. The laughter of the woods faded into silence, warmth washing over them, holding the promise of freedom. As their vision cleared, they found themselves back on the familiar ground of Willow Creek, standing at the edge of the woods, panting, hearts racing. The forest loomed behind them but felt smaller now, devoid of its sinister grip. It was just a forest, nothing more. Matt turned to Sarah, confusion etching his face for a fleeting moment. "We made it," he said, incredulity spilling into his voice. Did they follow us?" Sarah knelt before him, brushing dirt from his cheeks as she searched his eyes. "No, they didn't." Relief washed over her. That smile, the one she had fought so hard to see return, radiated from him. "We escaped, Matt. We can go home." As they walked back, hand in hand, the sunlight bathed Willow Creek in golden hues, as if the veil of dread had been lifted, leaving only the warmth of a summer day. Today wasn't just a day of victory, it was a reminder of the strength love can wield in the darkest moments. But Sarah knew a lingering truth remained: the woods would whisper again. They would always whisper. And when the stories began to flow once more, perhaps they could stand together, emboldened, ready to share their OWN. As they stepped into the embrace of their home, Sarah glanced back toward the woods, a sense of closure threading its way through her. The lingering pull didn't frighten her, it reminded her to stand tall, to be vigilant. They had won this battle, but the war against darkness was still out there, endless and looming. And she would be ready, but now, it was time to be together, whole, filled with joy. Don't you dare let this moment slip away. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the wild twists in this conclusion. And for the love of storytelling, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this ending. You need to subscribe now, because this is how you show you're among the true fans of this channel. Don't wait even one more second to share.